Hi. So, um, this channel has always pretty much been just me doing things that I enjoy and then just posting a recording of that on my channel, most likely in the cringiest way possible. Not on purpose, but just I seem to be extremely talented at embarrassing future me when I look back on them. But I always say, like, okay, I'm gonna delete it. I'm gonna delete it so I never have to see it and nobody else has to see this monstrosity, and then I always forget. So then later I'll go up and I'll post a new video 6 months later because I never post regularly, and I'll just look back and I'll just be like, oh, and that's still there. Isn't it just great? But anyway, since that's mostly what I do, I figured that I'd do what I enjoy most and post it on the channel, which actually isn't, painting or singing, actually. My favorite thing to do ever, what I do all the time, is read fan fiction specifically. That's what I do. I spend hours and hours, any free time I have. I look for a good book and I just cozy up in my bed, and that's just what I spend the rest of the day doing. So I figured that I'd just do that on this channel. So what we would be reading today is Of Wizards and Heroes, which is a Harry Potter and Avengers crossover. Oh, and a Doctor Who crossover, apparently. Those are all of the fandoms that are included here. It is slash, so be warned, there will be a male character, in a relationship with the main character. It's going to be Loki and Harry Potter together. Yeah, there are no. It is by storyforsomone on AO3, and it's Of Wizards and Heroes. And the description is, centuries after that fatal day of the Battle of Hogwarts, Harry Potter has fallen into legends, a bedtime story parents tell their children, a name whispered around campfires. He wanders the world alone and immortal until one single reckless moment sends him hurtling into a parallel dimension of heroes and villains. A new enemy arises from an ancient power, and Harry must take a stand as the last wizard to protect this new world. If only S.H.I.E.L.D. would stop trying to track him down. And someone could explain what the hell an Avenger is supposed to be. Honestly, muggles. The author says, this fic was written in 2015 and does not adhere to any canon films made after that time, including the Infinity Saga, and, yeah. There's a quote at the beginning that says, "To die would be an awfully big adventure," by J.M. Barrie, Peter Pan. Well, in the case of Harry Potter, that was certainly true. Harry just didn't think the next adventure would be so muggle. One minute he had been lazily dueling one of the last rogue vampire clans, managing quite well with his holly and phoenix feather wand, thank you very much, his mind only half on the angry horde surrounding him and thinking, maybe I'm too old for this. I mean, no one asked me to save the world. Not that that was anything new. The world had had no trouble casting him as their boy savior the first time around. Why should the rest of his life be any different? Harry had spent his very long life battling Death Eaters, vampires, werewolves, goblins, and even the occasional dragon. If Harry wanted a quiet life, throwing himself into aura training had perhaps not been the best idea. Then again, the war had never really ended for Harry. It was all that he knew. So when the vampires closed in and Harry got bored with blasting them with fire and transfigured his wand into a sword that looked remarkably like one once owned by Gryffindor, and threw himself once more into the fray. He couldn't help but wonder if this was it. Doomed to walk the earth for eternity, never aging, cursed to watch as everyone he loved and lived and died in their time, and he endured, a lone figure battling the forces of darkness because that was all he knew how to do. Put into perspective, it was an awfully lonely existence, and Harry was tired. Is this it? He wondered if he could die. Sure, he wasn't aging, but in Harry's experience, getting your neck snapped generally meant you were a goner. So maybe that was why he stopped fighting, why he let the sword go slack in his hand, staring placidly into the hungry eyes of the vampire leaping towards his throat, greeting death as an old friend. It was the sort of thing everyone he once knew would have been horrified by. Harry Potter giving up? Never cruel or cowardly, never give up, never give in. But then, they weren't exactly around anymore, were they? So with nothing to lose, Harry opened his arms and let the vampire sink its teeth into its neck, welcoming the darkness that enveloped him like a cloak. "I've got to go back, haven't I?" "That is up to you." "I've got a choice?" "Oh yes. We are in King's Cross, you say. I think that if you decided not to go back you would be able to, let's say, board a train. And where would it take me?" "On," Dumbledore said simply. Far away in a world amongst stars a solitary golden watcher dropped his staff with a ringing clang and stared in rare astonishment at this new possibility gracing the earth of Midgard, a figure born out of nothingness, his aura billowing with an ancient power of life and death itself, a pinprick on the map of space and time, utterly unaware of the peace and chaos he would bring. After all, it was not Harry's destiny to die by a vampire's hand, nor by any lesser man's, nor even by his own hand. Death was not his to claim. And as dawn broke on the new world, Harry Potter opened his eyes and took a deep, shuddering breath. The ground was hard and cold beneath him, and anyone looking from above would have seen the imprint of the hollow symbol carved into the tarmac around him. His hands brushed a silky material, a slender wand that sparkled with power, and a stone heavy with loss. And in that moment the Master of Death was born again. Credits to the embedded quote go to the lovely J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. That was Chapter 1.